Julius and I are here. I'm in the Chamber's office in Napa, and Julius is traveling the world. He is in Los Cabos right now. I will introduce him as not replacing, but he is standing in for Nicholas Langer, who many of you have known as the export manager slash producer manager of Robert Weil. Julius has been with the family a very, very long time, and he is kind of stepping into that role as well, while Nicholas kind of focuses on international. So, Julius, say hello if you don't mind. Introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself, because I know you've been at the property for a very long time.
Perfect. Yeah. Hello, also from my side, and Christian, thanks for having me. Yeah. Okay. I tell you a little bit about my story, how I came to wine, because this journey is, I think, related to wine with Robert Weil as well. I did my high school in 2012, and then I decided to study at the University of Geisenheim. At the University of Geisenheim, you have to know you need minimum 6 months of practice. And as my family has nothing to do with wine, I said, okay, 6 months in a wine year brings nothing to you. You see just half of it. So I decided to do an apprenticeship. And I was looking around, and I found Weingut Robert Weil also there. I had no clue where I landed, because I had nothing to do with wine back then. So, and the final decision, the point why I decided for Weingut Robert Weil was because the winery is just 10 minutes from my home. So I said, okay, 10 minutes, that's a nice drive. I go there, and yeah, so I started 2012, my apprenticeship at Weingut Robert Weil. I worked there for 2 years out in the fields, in the cellar. So that was a really, really good time. And yeah, 2014, when I finished my apprenticeship, I studied international wine business in Geisenheim. During this time, I still worked at the winery, but more for private clients in the Winothek and for private events and so on. But it was a really, really good time. And then I studied 1 semester abroad in Mendoza. That was 2017, and I finished 2018 my university. And then I was looking a little bit around, and the idea was to go to the US. So, and I had already contact to Kirill from Chaplet Hill. And yeah, we set up things, but when everything was set up, Corona hit. And the goal was always, because Willem said, I know you're a young guy, you have to see the world, go out for 1 year. And when you have this year in the US, come back, and then we will start together our journey with Weingut Robert Weil. And I said, okay, let's do this. But as I mentioned, Corona hit. And then we said, okay, let's skip the journey. You stay directly at the winery. And then I started 2020 to work with Nicholas in the export. So I'm since 2020 involved in all of the export, but more in the background, and now time by time. So I'm now taking over, or I took over the American continent, Ireland, England, Spain, Portugal, and Italy. This is where I'm right now responsible for. And yeah, but I'm still working with Nicholas together in all the other markets as well. So yeah, but that's my journey so far. And I can say, it's now 13 years.
Amazing. Who again? So say it one more time. Who you were out in California? Who you were supposed to be with?
Chaplet Hill.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Oh, that's cool. Right. Well. Yeah. Near and dear to us. So Giesenheim. I'm actually a little bit curious about Giesenheim, because is it Geisenheim or Giesenheim?
Geisenheim.
Geisenheim. So Geisenheim is extremely well known for their winemaking program. I mean, I would say probably above UC Davis out here in California, certainly on a worldly view. Is it all agriculture and wine, or is it other university that also encompasses other areas of professional?
Yeah.
Or is it just agriculture?
Yeah, so you can study there plenty of things.
Okay.
But I think the main 2 points is viticulture and international wine business. So one is more the economical part, the other one is the production part. And so I decided that was because it was a good time to do this apprenticeship to 2 years. You see everything and you make up your minds and you're thinking, where will you end up? Do you want to end up in a cellar? Do you want up in the fields to be a field manager, or do you want to be in the office? And so I decided to study international wine business.
And it seems like that's kind of a almost a prerequisite to go to Geisenheim, is like a prerequisite to get into the German wine business. Is that unless your family is there, unless your family already has
Yeah, so Geisenheim has a really good recognition all over the world. You can say in every wine area in the world, you have 2 contacts, and then you will find someone who had been in contact or is still in contact with Geisenheim. So Geisenheim has a really good network. What I have to say, what's funny, that nowadays it's 50-50 of people who are family related to wine and people who have nothing to do with wine. So there's a lot of people coming, so like me, coming into the wine industry who had no family background with wine.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, because and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but Geisenheim is also extremely fundamental into how and why Germany is the Riesling capital of the world, right? I mean, obviously we can talk about the climate and the soil types and so on, but Geisenheim seems like they are the ones back in the day to really drive the quality of the studying to create better wines was kind of generated from Geisenheim.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Geisenheim is also, because it is in Rheingau and Riesling stands for Germany, they are super focused on Riesling on the one hand. So they make a lot of studies, also what's going on in the future with the climate change, as Riesling is a cool climate, everything gets warmer. So there are studies going on. But it's also for the students, it is a door to the world. And this is also, I think, that is super fundamental, because as I studied in Mendoza, Malbec is something you taste it, but if you are once in Argentina and then you see what's going on there and you study there, you see the Malbec, the production, you learn a lot. And it's the same as also for the students who are studying viticulture. They are going also to Argentina, they're going to New Zealand, they're going to South Africa and so on. And they learning new stuff and they are coming back with new ideas. So the research what Geisenheim makes is fundamental, but also that it's a door to the world for the students and they bring new ideas into Germany. I think that's absolutely crucial.
Yeah, that's what education is all about. So we'll come back, we'll reel it back now to the actual property itself. And Robert was out here for about a month and a half or so, maybe a little bit more, almost 2 months out here. And he is the 5th generation, right?
Yes.
So the 5th generation is starting to come up into the property and start, pulling on the reins a little bit. And can you talk a little, I understand that it was back in the 1860s is when it really started. Talk a little bit about the genesis of how Robert Weil came to be.
Okay, so everything started with Dr. Robert Weil, and Dr. Robert Weil, the family was originally from Koblenz, so this is a city 1 hour, 45 minutes northwards from our region. And Dr. Robert Weil was, on first hand, he was a teacher for German language at the Sorbonne University in Paris. During to the German-French War in 1870-71, all the French had to leave Germany, all the German had to leave France, and he settled down in Wiesbaden. Wiesbaden is the city where I was born. This is more or less the door towards Rheingau. So from our village to Wiesbaden, it's 15 minutes. And so he settled down there, and he had already some connection towards our village, Kietrich, because there's an old historical church, and his brother was a priest there. So he had some family connections towards this area, and it was a quite good time to purchase vineyards. he had some money left. He bought vineyards, and then he had to decide, okay, do I become a winemaker or do I sell them with profit? And he decided, he decided to become a winemaker.
So it was an investment. So back in the day when he was buying it, it was an investment.
Yeah, in the beginning, and then he decided, okay, I will become a winemaker. I will open my own winery, and yeah, that everything. So we say everything started 1875. That was the founding day. Yeah, and that's what Dr. Robert Weil started with. And then, as you mentioned correctly, we are now on the way from the 4th to the 5th generation. Maybe a little funny side note with the names, it's quite easy because Dr. Robert Weil started, then Wilhelm Weil came, then Robert. Now, 4th generation, Wilhelm is responsible for the winery since 1987. And as you mentioned already, the 5th generation is on its way or is already there. Robert is also inside of the winery. So yeah, Robert, Wilhelm, Robert, Wilhelm, Robert.
And I didn't realize that the original Robert Weil was a doctor.
Yeah,
So,
German language.
In German, in actual linguistics.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So I've heard, back before that Franco-Prussian War, maybe even before, Napoleon and all that stuff, is that there were always titles, right? There was a title of a count. There was a title of, I don't know, but everybody was either a sir or a count or something. And then that changed when whatever Napoleon came on or whatever during certain certain wars, and everybody got their titles removed. And so everybody tried to get a title, and not easiest, but maybe the easiest one to get was a doctor, at least as far as a landowner and all that stuff. So there was a big drive. In order to get a title, you needed to be a doctor. So people pursued doctorates. Is that something you've ever heard before? I just, because we asked, why are there so many Dr. Loz and Dr. Robert Weil, Dr. Hogg, whatever. So I'm curious on why that is the case. And maybe you don't know, I don't know.
Yeah, to be honest, there I can't give you a really, really right answer. I think from our winery, he was a teacher. He was a doctor for German language.
Not for the title.
How the other wineries handle this or where it comes from, I have to pass on.
Okay. It's just because it's all we get. I get asked all the time, like, what's up with all the doctors? Because there's a lot of, like, in the German wine, region area, it's there's a lot of doctors. Okay, cool. So back when he purchased that property, so he had a priest in the church, and that church is very, very famous now, still these days, right? Because it's the oldest organ since the oldest working organ since the 1500s, which is fantastic. It's kind of a mecca for a lot of people too, right?
A lot of people are traveling there, and also from the architecture, it's one of the few churches in Germany that are built Gothic style from the outside and the inside. This is also we in our village, people are coming there really to see the church, to see everything, because normally the churches were built Gothic style from the outside, and it took so long. And when they started with the inside, there was something new, fancy, so they had a new style inside. And people are really traveling to Kietrich. They're passing our winery, and then they are looking for the church. Yeah.
Well, how many? So how many people are? What's the population of Kietrich?
Nowadays, I have to lie.
It's small, right?
Yeah, it's small. It's small. Let me lie. 3,000 people.
Yeah.
Maybe?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and I asked because you look at the house of Weil, and then you see a little peekaboo, like a little area of the spire of the church. It's right there.
Mm-hmm.
It's right there. And that's the original house. Is that house the original house that everybody sees?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, and this is also a point where we can make a connection towards the church and our property, because there was a nobleman before Dr. Robert Weil came to Kietrich. He was Sir John Sutton. He was a nobleman from the UK, and he fell in love with Kietrich and also with the church. And he really invested a lot of his money to rebuild this church. This is also why it is right now in such good conditions. However, Sir John Sutton passed away before Dr. Robert Weil came to Kietrich, and the family were not in the mood to stay there any longer. And so Dr. Robert Weil had the chance to buy this property directly next to the church. And this is also something which is a super advantage for us, because back then when Dr. Robert Weil purchased this manor house, this original manor house, he purchased also enough ground directly. And nowadays in Germany, you are a winery, you're inside of the village, and when you want to get bigger, you have to leave the village and you have to get out. And we have from scratch, we have enough, no, from scratch, we have enough place. So when you are coming to our winery, if anybody of you out there are coming to Frankfurt, please take a train 25 minutes westwards. There's our winery, so it's super fast to come there. You're always welcome. And then you always see, you stand in front of the manor house, and then to the left and to the right, we have more buildings, and you see how every generation brought something to this area. And then we start with the manor house, who was built originally from Sir John Sutton, but also there the front brought the Dr. Robert Weil brought something to this manor house. And then we are coming till the area of our new cellar, which was built 2012.
And it's beautiful. I mean, the cellar is just stunning. I mean, the whole grounds are absolutely beautiful. I agree. I mean, if anybody can make it out there, and that's really, I mean, people don't realize, I mean, if you come to California, you want to go to Napa, it's like, you know, an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours of car driving, where you have to, you know, rent a car and all that kind of stuff. But from Frankfurt, it's a hop, jump, and a skip, and you're right there. It's really easy to get to, and it's just, yeah, it's absolutely stunning. And, you know, as far as the vineyards are concerned, you know, how much originally did he purchase? And I know that he had started purchasing a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And what were the original parcels of the property?
Okay, I can't tell you directly the hectares, how many he bought directly from scratch, but I think there's a fun story we can talk about, because Dr. Robert Weil was married to Emilio from Vaccano. This was originally a noble family from Lombardy, and they left Lombardy in 1800. I can't tell you directly the year, but they left Italy. They came to Germany, and so Dr. Robert Weil married Emilio von Vaccano, and with the marriage portion, they bought a certain area of Grevenberg, so our Große Lage area. And we still have it today. And to honor the Weil or the Vaccano family, this was the house wine of the Weil family, and they called it Monte Vaccano. This is also sometimes when people are seeing there's written Monte Vaccano, how can it be that we are in Germany and we have an Italian name on the hill? But this is just to honor the family of Vaccano. Yeah.
Which we have a couple of. We have a couple of bottles in inventory. They are, you know, they are high end, extremely high end. I mean, the really, you know, cream of the top, cream of the crop, if you will. Incredible. I have not yet had a chance to taste that, but I know it's going to be ethereal and just an unbelievable bottle of wine. So if anybody sees out there, they're packed in single bottles, wooden case. They're stunning, wax top and all that kind of stuff. And to your point is, my understanding is that, like you said, it was a house wine. It was kind of they save the best for themselves. The original cabinet, if you will, style of wine for the home. So if anybody sees that, so the Grafenberg, and what's the ownership as far as like how many producers? Because I know, such as in the Mosel or Zygerbergsgarten, it's like there's like, you know, whatever 200 producers that can make, because they have, you know, literally single vines, you know, held in there. What's roughly how many people make Grafenberg?
That's a good question. We say we have the distribution monopoly because we own 95% of this vineyard side.
So that's substantial.
Yeah. So you will just find Grafenberg from Weingut Robert Weil on the international scene. the other 5% are split into different smaller wineries in our village, and they will just produce wines for the consumption directly at in our village. So that's always.
I didn't realize it was that much. I mean, so, and for instance, we have, you know, our Sancerre producer, one of the kind of seen as Grand Cru vineyards in Chavignol, the Mont d'Amnay, that is, you know, they have a majority ownership, but it's more like 60% and so on. So you see, you know, you'll see a few more Mont d'Amnays out there. And I expected that to be the case with the Grafenberg, but that's not. 95% is quite a bit. Damn near a monopole.
This is our goal.
That's incredible. And I'm sure you'll reach it too. When Robert Weil came, so the name Grafenberg, right? If you can kind of talk about the name of the Grafenberg, and when Robert Weil came to actually, you know, inherit it or to purchase it through the Vacano family, you know, why was the Grafenberg considered such a you know, a grosse Lage? Why was it so fantastic?
Yeah. Okay. This is also. So when I will come to California, I will have probably my offline presentation with. This is, we say, the Holy Blue Bible. It's a small, a small book where you can see everything. And we have inside there, we have a classification map, and this is from 1867. And they classified back then all the vineyards in Rheingau into first class, second class normal vineyards. And you can see that Grafenberg was back then, even 1867, a vineyard site first class. In the beginning, it was not a quality system, it was a tax system. So they looked which vineyard site is very good, and then you have to pay more taxes for that. But this is where we can see, okay, even 1867, Grafenberg was already top notch, and this is nowadays continuing.
And my understanding is it's also, you know, back to that whole title situation. It's Hill of the Counts, right? Yeah. So a lot of the counts and a lot of the papacy. I mean, to your point, where the Franco-Prussian War, you know, people had to kind of segment. Napoleon nationalized all the properties and so on. But at one point, it was the papacy, or papacy, I don't know how you pronounce it. The church owned a lot of that, and then it turned into the counts owning a lot of that. And then that's when, you know, slowly but surely, Robert started purchasing the property itself. So even, you know, as to your point about the tax system and saying it's a first class area, you correct me if I'm wrong, but even the church, you know, way back before that knew that was a particularly great vineyard to produce, you know, wine from.
Absolutely. I think the first time Grafenberg was mentioned was 1200. Wow. So you see, even a few hundred years earlier than this classification or tax system. So our area was always an area where also the monks, because we have next to Kidrich, we have the monastery of Eberbach, Kloster Eberbach. I think they brought the vines 800 to the Rheingau area. And so they had already, because they're around the corner, they saw that Kidrich, Grafenberg, this area is really good to make viticulture. Yeah.
And so we have Grafenberg, and then we have Thunberg.
Yes.
So Thunberg is the hill of the tower, right? So it's actually a little bit more north. If Rheingau is a south-facing hill, Kidrich is up on the hill, tucked away into the back, into the northern side, and then even further, Thunberg is a little bit more higher and more north of that as well. That's right?
Absolutely correct. It is directly next to Grafenberg, a bit more northern. And Thunberg, for example, is our monopole vineyard. So 3.8 hectares big, 60% steepness. And yeah, this is our monopole. Erste Lage.
Yeah, so premier cru for those that are, of course, Erste Lage. And then a couple other vineyards kind of throughout Kidrish as well. I mean, how many? Two more? Or I forget.
No, so we are focusing on 3 single vineyards in
Yeah.
Kidrich. So we talked about Grevenberg, we talked about Turmberg, and the third one is Klosterberg. Translation would be Monastery Hill, because when you are going from the village of Kidrich towards the monastery of Eberbach, on the right-hand side, you see the Monastery Hill. And this is also Erste Lage. So Klosterberg, Turmberg, Erste Lage, Grevenberg, Große Lage.
Okay, I thought there was some on the more kind of western side, but I guess I was wrong. Okay, so all 3, and how big is Klosterberg roughly? Is it a bigger site? How big?
Yeah. Klosterberg is a bigger site. Let me lie. I think it's like 14, 15 hectares or something.
Okay, yeah. So that's not huge, but it's not small either.
Yeah.
And so, when you do your Ortswein, right? So Ortswein is going to be just strictly one of those sites. Is that right?
Yeah. So Ortswein, for example, this is exactly, and this is a bit in the geeky wine scene in Germany. People always looking the best wine, price value wine, and Kidricher Ortswein brings already Klosterberg, Turmberg, and Grevenberg with, because we have older and younger wines there. And the younger wines who are not going into the single vineyard bottles, they first go as a blend into the Kidricher.
So, and that's what we currently have, right? It's a Kidricher Trocken. And so that Kidricher Trocken, we have the regular Trocken, and then we have the Kidricher Trocken, and that's what you're saying is the Kidricher is encompassing all of those, and just whether it be younger vines and so on. But an amazing value. I mean, anybody in the wine world, I would say, I mean, it's a generalization, but the more single site specifics, generally the higher the quality is, or at least the specific, qualities certainly of that particular wine or region. And then, so Ortswein is going to be those estate wines, and then Gutswein is going to be similarly of the 3, but whether it be a different picking date or a younger vine or something along those lines, right? That just don't necessarily meet the qualifications of the Ortswein, but still from the same vineyards.
Absolutely correct. Maybe to give you an idea, we are walking up to 17 times through one and the same line in a vineyard. So we start with Gutswein, then a few days later we are coming to Ortswein. Then we have the Erste Lage or Große Lage, so the GG. And then for Grevenberg, for example, we produce all the other sweet predicates, Spätlese, Auslese, Beerenauslese, Trockenbeerenauslese. We also try to produce every year ice wine, but due to climate change, the last time we achieved this was 2016. So, but we really walk day by day, we are walking through the same line. And I think the main harvest time is done in between 3 to 4 weeks. Then we are done with the main harvest season. And then we are not done, we are not finished, because we will go again and again, we will go out and to collect all the Noble Street categories. To give you an idea, 2016 Grevenberg ice wine was harvested on the 7th of January 2017.
Wow.
Yeah. So we are waiting.
There's a lot of things that need to go right in order to be able to harvest wine on January 7th.
Yeah.
Let alone climate or weather related. That's crazy. Wow. And so, that even then, like, you guys are able to produce, whether it be ice vine or Trockenbeerenauslese or something along those lines, is because you are a little bit more elevated, right? So you are a higher elevated than somebody that's next to the Rhine. Rather on, if somebody's next to the Rhine, you're going to have a little bit more of a balmy weather, if you will. Whereas, and balmy meaning like a slightly more, humidity, maybe less wind than you guys have up in the northern area of the Tanis Mountains.
You're absolutely correct, Christian. If you guys are ever coming to our area, you see that So the Rheingau's area is very small with 3,200 hectares. And it has a reason why we can't get bigger, because we have two natural borders. We have on the southern area, we have the natural border of the Rhine River. On the northern border, we have the Taunus forest. And you will see that Rheingau is not a flat area. We have inclination. And we have three plateaus. We have the low plateau, which is directly at the river. We have the middle plateau, and we have the high plateau. And Kietrich is placed on the highest plateau. As you already said, after Turmberg, there's just Taunus forest. And we are really focusing on this area, cool area. And there we have also two natural life insurance, we always say. Because on the one hand, after Grevenberg and Turmberg, there's just Taunus forest. And we have also natural springs there. And so the water supply is always there, but our vines are never getting wet feet, because also the forest takes the water out if it's too much from the vineyard. So that's one life insurance. The other life insurance is what you already mentioned, the wind. Because it is a bit V-shaped, the valley. On the one hand, you have our village. On the other hand, you see then Grevenberg and Turmberg. And we have a constant wind blowing down from the Taunus forest down to the river. And therefore, it dries out all the times our berries. Sometimes it sounds a little bit normal that we say we are producing every year BA, TBA, and so on, in all predicates. But we say that's totally humble, because it is not that easy. We need to have this wind that it really dries out all the berries. And so we are the only winery in the world that produced 36 consecutive vintages of TBA out of one single vineyard. And this is thanks to these two life insurance.
It was 1988. Man, that's wild. So I think, you know, that's really interesting about the sponge aspect of the forest as well. So you're a little bit higher elevated, you're slightly a little cooler for sure. You have that wind. I think that's where a lot of that kind of bracing acidity comes from. I think you guys have a real, like, you excel at your tension in your wines. It's just, again, very brisk, but a lot of power behind that as well. I mean, there's a delicacy, but there's also a lot of oomph behind Robert Weil wines. And I'm wondering if that's more of a Robert Weil aspect, or is that, you know, because I don't necessarily see that same kind of density, or, you know, that explosive flavors in other Rheingaus. But I know some of that has to do with the soil types, right? So you have some clay in there as well that gives that some density, some loam as well. I mean, is that throughout the Rheingau, or is there going to be limestone and so on, you know, elsewhere?
So Rheingau is quite diverse from the soil compositions. In our case, we have certain slate in our area. It's called fillet slate. It's a gray slate. It's a very soft slate. And slate is something which is not that typical for Rheingau. So when you think about Mosel, you have slate in every types of colors: red, green, purple, however. And this is so there it's normal. In our region, not. And I think this is, as we are focusing, maybe to give you an idea, we have 90 hectares, 222 acres. I think this is the right.
About right.
And we are super focused. 2 kilometers around our winery is where you all find our vineyard sites. And this is, so everything very focused on Kietrich, highest elevated vineyard sites, all with the aspect where you have fillet slate inside. Depending when we are looking on the single vineyards, we have on one single vineyard, we have more, on the other less, but all are influenced in a certain way. And I think this is also what gives always this slight crisp idea. And the other thing is what you mentioned is with the acidity, is that we are on the highest elevated vineyard sites. And when you're looking microclimate wise, we have a slightly cooler area than directly at the river.
Certainly. Yeah. To be expected. And as far as, you know, you guys are in a very privileged area, whether that be serendipity or, with intention, which I think it's a little bit of both. But, the world is changing. Global warming is happening. I think if there's any one, region, I say this all the time, but if there's any one region that may be a benefactor of global warming, it's Germany, considering how many, millennia it's taken to, try and grow grapes that actually ripen. And now every year they ripen, which is a good thing. But there is also, there is a point where it's going to get too hot, or potentially. And how is Robert Weil, and how is Rheingau calling to that issue? How are they attacking global warming?
Yeah. So yes, absolutely. What you said is 100% correct. We are affected by global warming, and if we are talking microclimate wise, for example, Turmberg, the most northern vineyard site, or next with Klosterberg, we are right now in the perfect spotlight, because right now we achieve every year full ripeness over there. This is something the generations before, they couldn't achieve this. That was maybe, they knew already that Turmberg, for example, is an outstanding vineyard, but they maybe produced 1 or 2 outstanding years out of 10. And so nowadays we can produce every year all categories also in Turmberg. So this is the advantage. On the other way around, if you get something, you also have to give something. And this is the ice wine, for example, as ice wine was more regularly in the past. We will probably have ice wine out of 12 years, 10 years, 12 years, 20 years, I don't know. Let's see when the next ice wine will come. So therefore, a lot of our neighboring wineries, they gave up on gambling for ice wine, because you have to imagine, it is Grevenberg, it is Große Lage area. We can produce out of this area where we leave the berries, we can also produce GG and earn some money. But we say we are known all over the world for our noble sweet wines, and we also want to achieve the masterclass, then the ice wine, and this is why we are still looking for. But yeah, climate change changed this, and how the Rheingau looks generally to climate change is that we talked already about the University of Geisenheim. They make already studies how will Riesling, because Riesling is a cool climate grape variety, what will happen in the next 100, 150 years. I think as a wine producer, you have to look into the future. You have to look more into the future than other industries. But I think also we don't have to, because we can't look into the next 150, 200 years. So much can happen in this time. So therefore, right now, we see the advantages. We also see that we have, for example, sometimes like 2018, 19, 20, super hot vintages where we see that the acidity drops earlier, that the wines can get really fat, that we really have to look what we are doing. And other wineries, they can go up to 13.5 volumes. The wines have too less acidity. So this is something, a problem that the generations before of us didn't have to handle with, but this is something we have to work with nowadays.
And I mean, it's not water related, right? There's no real droughts. I mean, there may be some drier years, but as far as a water concern, usage and whatnot, that's not a big issue, right? It's straight heat.
Yeah.
Okay,
absolutely.
That's what I figured. There's a couple of things I want to touch on before I go, because I mean we did talk about the history a little bit. We talked about the actual vineyards as well, and a little bit of just a little bit of soils and whatnot. But I know that Wilhelm is part of the VDP. He's on the board. I forget if he's the president of the Rheingau, or if he's on. So
yes,
an incredibly influential person, and somebody that's helping drive the quality of all German wines, but certainly in Rheingau. And what's his, how is that, what's his day, like his way of working with the VDP? Is that something that they meet, monthly, quarterly? how do they kind of come to resolutions and decisions? Because I know they're constantly having conversations, even about global warming, for instance.
Yeah. Okay. To be honest, I'm not that involved with the VDP work of Wilhelm. But you mentioned correctly that Wilhelm is the president of the regional association, VDP Association of Rheingau. So you know, when
he has to be voted as such, right?
Yeah,
they have to vote.
Yeah. Let me lie, but I think he is now there for 20 years or something.
Amazing.
And I think he pushed the region really forward. And Rheingau is also the area where you have the most VDP members in one region out of all regions in Germany. This is something where we can say, okay, we are proud of that, but you have a lot of meanings also. And to bring all these meanings under one, under one house or something can be sometimes tough. So I don't want to change with him. But so I think they still they are doing a tremendous job. And for example, one thing they changed in the last years was the VDP, Rheingau VDP is the first regional association that really decided that the releasing date of the GGs has to be the 1st of September, 2 years after harvest. Before it was always the 1st of September, the year after harvest. And now they made it mandatory for all VDP members in Rheingau that they have to wait 2 years for the 1st of September.
So that's why we currently have our 22 GG, and the 23 we won't get until next year, basically after shipping it and all that stuff. We won't see it until 2026. And my other question about that, I forget it now, but it was about, it makes sense that, that there are more VD members in Rheingau, because that's basically where it was started, right? It was created, was that kind of, was Rheingau, was the VDP, the original.
To be honest, I don't know if it was directly, it was 1910 when it started.
Yeah.
If it was originally in Rheingau, this is a good question. I'm really looking, I will ask, because next to Wilhelm, we have also Jochen Becker-Köhn, which is who's his right hand, and I will ask him.
I'm pretty sure, because it was originally,
it
was originally, I forget what its acronym was, but it was originally something in like the early 1900s or maybe even 1890s, and then it morphed into the VDP, is my understanding. So really, it's really huge that he's the president of the VDP, because I mean that the wines speak for themselves, but the having him be a president is really kind of validating as well. The other is how 24 was shaped up. How did 23 and 24 vintage kind of shake out? And I know that there was some real significant frost issues at the start of the year in a few places of Germany. I don't know if that affected you guys as much, but how was 24? I guess let's start with 24.
Yeah.
How was the vintage?
Yeah. 2024. So first of all, maybe what we see in the last years in general is what you totally correctly said, weather extremes. Weather extremes is what appears more and more. We have heat, we have heavy rain, we have hail, we have late frost. So everything what a winemaker is not looking for is what is in the moment going on. And we have a lot of roller coaster. We have normally rainy days when we are expecting to have sun. We have really warm days when we expect to have winter. So in the moment, it's a bit crazy roller coaster. And you mentioned the late frost, for example. This is something where our other regions, now, for example, was super affected on late frost. There are wineries, they lost up to nearly 90, 100%. We had also late frost in Rheingau, but we are not that affected. And I think we lost in total 2%. So we are very happy that it's not that affected, but it's a crazy time in the moment. And we talked already, 2024 was a year things, and I think we made an amazing quality. So 2024, when you're able to taste these wines, I hope that you will see this. But we needed our life insurance we talked about earlier. We needed our forest. and we need the constant wind. This is really something what was crucial 2024, because we had sometimes really heavy rains, and we had a lot of water in the soil, but our vines never got wet feet because of the swamp effect of the forest. And yeah, that was 2024. 2024 was really up and down, warm air times, but also a lot of rain, also in the summertime. Yeah, not that easy in the moment.
Yeah, no, and I know, coming, because currently we're selling 23, and we'll put together an offer on the 24 that's going to be coming up pretty soon. But the 23s that we're currently selling is, again, my understanding is that 22 was very hot, or I should say was very warm, but it also was very dry. So 22 was both dry and warm. And that really had a significant stress factor onto the vines. But then 23, it did have some heat to it, but a lot more water that was able to kind of carry it forward. And 23 seems like it's an amazing vintage.
Yeah, absolutely. So 2023 was everything, but not easy. But never. As you correctly said, it is an outstanding, amazing vintage. Wilhelm, as we talked earlier, produced all the wines since 1987, and he said 2023 will be one of his best vintages he ever made. Wow. I mean, we all want to sell wine, but if we say something like this, it has a meaning. And
that's unbelievable.
And this is so 2023 is an outstanding. Also from the ratings, when you look at all the points, international critics, 2023 was really top rated in all of them. That's sometimes a little bit of a challenge then for the next year, 2024. But we know this, and we saw the quality. So we've been to the VDP Mainzer Weinbörse in Mainz a few weeks ago. Also, we had some bottles already in the ProWein. So I think people will see that 2024 was challenging, but won't be under the level of 2023.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's again, Robert Weil is known for producing incredible wines, sense of place. And again, but in any case, every single year, it's not something that, you guys produce that doesn't have the quality to match the name of Robert Weil. I think, in fact, so much so that we've had just this week, we had a three-star Michelin take on, basically order our entire inventory of the Grafenberg GG for their pairing menu. And the wine, if anybody hasn't had that wine yet, it is just unbelievably stunning. Drinking beautifully right now, but we'll get some more in here from Lozen. But it's again very validating that 3-star decided to use that on the pairing menu, because it's just the wine is just truly worldish. So there's a lot of draw from the market and a lot of understanding of who Robert Weil is and so on. So with that, I think, there's so much, I love talking like that. I love talking to you about this, Julius. And I think there's so much more that we could talk about. Certainly selfishly, I really am curious about a certain number of things, but for the sales team, I really appreciate you guys listening to this. Obviously, Robert Weil is very important to Chambers and Chambers. It's been a long, great partnership, and it truly is a partnership, because you guys continually, support us in ways that, we really are appreciative of. And I hope to see you soon here, Julius, maybe at the end of this year. And if not, we'll start to see you certainly next year. I hope the sales team, you're listening, you got something out of this. Thank you for your time and your attention. If there's any other questions, you can send them to me. Otherwise, if I can't answer them, we'll include Julius to answer those. So thanks, everybody. Safe drive, all that kind of stuff.